One of the most important skills in life and in business is the ability to lead, communicate, and inspire those around you. My guest today is Maria Kelly. She has over 20 years experience in leading positions. To learn more from her experience to apply to your own journey, listen to this episode of the Montrepreneur Podcast. Okay, Maria, nice that you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. It was very hard to organize this place today in Barcelona, but fortunately we had it. Maria, you worked with many businesses over the years. You worked with many leaders, and I find it very interesting that you told me that you help a lot of people unleash their potential and try to get the best out of them. But I would love to hear your story from your mouth. Tell me, who is Maria Kelly?
Who's Maria Kelly? Oh, wow. That's a long story.
Okay.
Do you have time?
I do.
So Maria Kelly, I'm Irish, but born in Switzerland, grew up in Geneva, so I speak English and French. I've lived in New York and London before coming here to Barcelona. I'm married, I have a dog, and my first... first career was in the art world. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Sotheby's, the auction house.
Yeah.
It was my first real job, and I spent 22 years working for them. And I was lucky to work with them in Switzerland, in New York and London. Mm-hmm. And it's with them that I got to move with my husband to those places. And it was a fascinating world, fascinating job. I loved it. And in 2020, I left them and decided to start my own business and move to Barcelona. So this is how I ended up here. And when I was thinking, what's next? After 22 years, you're like, well, what else could I do? I thought, well, why not go and do something that I know that I've been doing now for a long time, which was leading people. I was leading a global division when I left. And one thing I really struggled with as I was growing up in that company was I was given promotions throughout the years, which was great. Obviously, I'm not complaining, but I wasn't given the training and the upskilling, the leadership training and the skills I needed as I was taking on these new managerial or leadership roles, which meant that I made mistakes. Mm-hmm. I made people mistakes, which are the worst you can make. And I struggled. It was really hard. Like the first 2 years of my first real big leadership role, I felt like I was walking around with plates on my head and that something was going to slip and crash around me. And I felt like it's not fair to give people promotions and responsibilities, but not give them the tools and the support they need to do it well. Mm-hmm. So that was my thinking when I started my business. I felt like these are the people I want to help.
Okay.
I want to help the person I was and that the help I didn't get. So that's why I started my business.
Okay. What tools did you miss when you were at your position?
Well, it was basic skills, managerial skills. So I found myself overnight promoted to managing a country with all the people reporting into me, and I had absolutely no managerial skills. I'd not learned how to manage people. I'd not learned how to have difficult conversations, give feedback. I was struggling to prioritize what was important. So there was lots of skills that you acquire throughout your career, and then you acquire some and then you move up and then you need new skills because suddenly your job changes and these are things that don't come naturally. They're things that you learn. And if you're lucky, somebody teaches them to you. But if not, you learn them on the job and through trial and error. Yeah. And it can be tough. And some people fail then. There's actually stats around it that says that 70% of leaders in their leadership role have said that they never got any training whatsoever before entering their roles. And then when you take out of those 70%, 60% I think fail actually in the first 18 months. So failing can be failing, dramatically, like leaving the job or getting fired. That's a small percentage, but a big percentage of them fail quietly. So they don't do well in their job, they don't perform, or they they have really bad consequences on the performance of the company because they're not doing their job the way they should be. And then obviously they're not happy in their job, and they end up either leaving or they stay in a job in which they're miserable.
Okay. What are the best characteristics you saw in the leaders you worked with, or you learned while being in a leading position in your company?
I think the most important things is it's communication. Communication is the biggest skill you can learn, and we all think we know how to communicate. I promise you we don't. We can always get better, because the biggest communication skill is actually not about speaking, it's about listening. So
100%.
Learning how to listen to people. And it's one of the biggest issues I see with all my clients, whether they're, CEOs or companies or founders, whatever. The issues often that come up when I speak to them about why they're unhappy in their job or something's not working in their team, it's often based on communication. So communication is a big one, and that englobes a lot of things. And then leading by example. I think that's, for me, is really fundamental. If you want to be a good leader, you can't just say things. You have to behave the way you want your team to behave, and you have to be the incarnation of what you're promoting. So those are two really important ones for me.
Okay, I understand. What was your position before you were a leader? I mean, because you said that was a gap there.
So I grew up, I entered the company at the lowest possible. I was an administrator, and I just, went up job role by role. And my first leadership role was, it was in the Geneva office, and I was the office manager, so I was managing more the operational sides and administrative and all that stuff. And I found myself having to manage the Swiss business overnight, and which I managed, but it wasn't easy. And it wasn't easy because my direct boss wasn't based in Switzerland, so he was based in England. So I didn't have somebody on the ground to support me, and then I had no peers. So a bit like we were talking about, being an entrepreneur can be lonely. Being a leader can be lonely, because you can find yourself in certain positions, the only person at that level. And so you don't have anybody to brainstorm, bounce ideas off, or to ask for, advice or support on, am I doing something wrong? Am I doing this right? You feel very isolated. And I felt that way, really.
Okay, I can totally relate to that. You mentioned you wished you could communicate better before, or you wished a lot of leaders wish that they could have this skill before they enter the role. What other skills do you think, or what things that could help to communicate better, in general? What do you think?
I think there's a lot of basic things learning how to ask questions.
This is a good one.
Asking open questions and learning how to give feedback. These are all things that we think, it's easy, but no, actually there is a science behind it of how you can do it well. And I have a thing about why don't they teach us these things in school, right? It should be something pretty basic, because these are tools that would serve you every day in your life. And so at work, if they were to teach people, before people become leaders, teach them the skills, teach them how to manage their time, how to manage themselves. That's another big one. You have to learn how to manage yourself, whether it's with your team, your boss, the people you work with, and being self-aware about what you're good at, what you're not good at, where you have to go and ask for help. Those are all things that doesn't come naturally to most people.
I mean, I cannot imagine other way than learning by doing to learn these skills. Actually, you mentioned trainings, etc. What kind of exercises do you have in these trainings to improve these skills? So
it's very bespoke. So it depends. It depends what the people being attacked by flies. It depends what the people need. If I had a client come to me and say, well, I want to align my leadership team. They have several leaders in the company. They want them to work better together. That's something I do a lot to help them, better communicate, better collaborate in order to improve the performance of the company, but also the growth of it. And depending what it is that they need help with, we might do like a day training or half day training with the group together in understanding their different communication styles. Because I think a lot of it comes down to awareness. Often people not even aware of, what's not working, what their strengths or weaknesses are, or what other people's differences might be. And we had a conference this morning we both attended about cultural differences. That's a perfect example about putting yourself in the other person's shoes and seeing their perspective and understanding. And I think we're often so busy with our day-to-day stuff. We're often so much into our own thing that we don't take time often to try and understand where the other person is coming from, and working on understanding why this person might think differently, or why and how is the best way to communicate with them so that you can collaborate. That's something I help sometimes companies with. And I think it's one of the things that they enjoy the most in general, because they suddenly realize, oh, okay, that's why when I say this, you don't, because you understand what I'm saying. And it's like a discovery, and it opens their eyes, and then they feel like, okay, now we understand, now we can move forward. We can unblock the problem.
Cool. Nice. You summarized that very, very well. What was like the biggest conflict situation you had? Because you said, okay, communication, etc., but miscommunication will lead to conflicts.
Yes.
What was like the biggest conflict situation either you personally had or you saw like from other leaders?
My biggest conflict, I had a big one. And it was down to communication, not so much my communication. I had a situation where I was asked to take over a division, somebody else's division. This person was being promoted into a chairman position, and therefore I was going to take over their departments and their division. It wasn't very clearly communicated, I think, to that person that was happening. Even though when they told me this was happening, I was like, do they know? Yes, they are very excited. And so this person was like, yeah, I'm taking this role, but I'm still managing my teams. And I was told that I need to manage them. So there was a bit of like, okay, so clearly there's a miscommunication. We need to sort that out. Went back to the boss, said, okay, I think there's a miscommunication. She thinks she's still doing it. What's the reality? No, she's not. You're doing it. I was like, but have you told her? Yeah, she knows. And basically she was playing a bit of a game where she wanted to keep a bit of power on both sides. And basically I was put in this situation where I was expected to take on these people that were supposed to be reporting to me, but she continued telling them that they were reporting to her.
Yeah.
So that put me in a situation where I got a little bit angry with my boss and saying, listen, you need to man up and speak to this person, because either I'm doing it or I'm not. I felt it was really unfair to put me in this situation.
Yeah.
The advantage is we were both very direct people. So I had a discussion with my boss, I had a discussion with her, and we were able to speak about it, even though she continued doing her stuff. But yeah, I mean, these kind of things happen. At some point you need to let go of what you can't control and focus on what you can. But also, for me, that was a perfect example of somebody not taking ownership of a situation. And in that case, it was my boss who created a situation and didn't take the steps needed to clarify it or fix it, and sort of let it fester for a moment because he didn't want to have the uncomfortable conversation with her. So yeah, that's how things go badly. Most of the time it's because people don't want to have these conversations that make them uncomfortable, right?
100%. Who wants that?
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned like communication, you mentioned ownership. What makes a leadership or a good leader other than these two things?
Courage.
Courage.
Courage for me is a big one. I think also empathy. And caring. I think a good leader should be kind also. I know it's not the poster child of old school leadership, but I believe in for me, the leader, I believe in servant leadership. Like the leader should be there to support their team. You're not there to boss them around, to be their mom, the police or whatever. You're there to help them, be their best at what they do and give them the support and the guidance they need. So for me, caring about your team, being there for them, being supportive, but also being able to have those difficult conversations, giving them feedback to help them grow, making sure that, they have the skills to do their job, communicating clearly with them, giving them clear directions, and also then empowering them to go and do their job. Delegating is really important. I think these are all things that make great leaders. And it's easy. You look at the people that you would define in your mind as a great leader, you see all these qualities in them.
Yeah.
They are people that inspire you to be a better, they inspire you to do better.
100%.
That's
100%.
someone who I think is a good leader.
But I mean, all the skills you mentioned right now are soft skills.
Yeah, they're important soft skills.
100%. They are important. But I mean, is there like any skills, for example, like hard skills, something that people can really learn as, I don't know, management or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, the technical skills, like the soft skills, you can learn everything. Like most of the time, the problems I see with people having problems with leadership or managerial issues, it's because they're very good technical people. They're really good at their job. So they were great at whatever they do. And the only way to get promoted within the organization is to take on a leadership role or a managerial role. And sometimes those people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like they're very happy being really good at what they want. But they find themselves having to take it on because that's the only path there is in the organization. And so they take on something that maybe they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And then they find themselves having to learn skills that they didn't have, or maybe they don't learn them and they just continue doing what they were doing, and then they become not good at what they're doing.
Yeah.
So someone who's really good technically at their job, they were the superstar, then they don't become good at their job, then they're unhappy, and then they leave because finally they found themselves put in a situation that wasn't good for them. And so I think you always have to be very clear on, is it something you want to do? Do you want to take on a leadership role? Is this something you want for your career or not? And we should not be pushing people into these roles 100%. If it's not what they want to do. And it's not good for the company either, because you've pushed a super performer in what they were doing into doing something else. So they're spending their time, doing administrative and people stuff, which they don't enjoy and they're not good at. But then they're not doing the other stuff that they were really great at. Yeah. And so I think the whole technical side of the job, I think you learn it on the job most of the time. And yes, management skills and all those things, you can learn them. There's the technical side that everybody can learn. You can do courses, you can go online, you can learn, training, whatever. Those things exist. I mean, if you're lucky, your company will provide it to you. If you're not, you can do it yourself. And that's one thing that I learned too, is don't wait for your company to do your personal development for you.
Yeah.
You're responsible of your personal development. So take it in your own hands to, develop yourself and do the things that need to be done for yourself, basically.
Good. I have two questions on that. The first one is, you mentioned all the things you mentioned, the soft skills. I mean, for me, it's not just a job thing, Which impact does these things have on a personal level? It's okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, one day we'll have
he was
a
going to
place.
walk here. I was like, no, that way. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Okay.
Yeah.
All the things you mentioned have I can imagine they have impact on personal level.
Yeah.
Which impact do you think being a leader had on your personal life?
It's a good question. I think, it definitely helped me grow. I never planned to have a career. It was not in my plans. I just wanted to have a job I enjoy, that I was happy to go to, that I get enough money to live. I was never a career girl or wanting to climb the ladder. It just sort of happened to me. And I think I realized that as it happened, I realized that first I enjoyed it. And secondly, that I was good at it.
Yeah.
And taking on leadership role, I grew a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I took on responsibilities. I I grew as a person, I grew as a professional, and I did things that I'd never imagined I'd be doing. I'd never planned to, find myself managing a global division for an international company. That was not something I'd ever thought I'd do. So, personally, it got me, I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't done that. Right. I got to go and live in countries that, I wouldn't have done otherwise. And, I've had a really exciting life until now, and I'm sure there's more to come. But it's done a lot personally, and for my marriage too. With my husband, we got to move countries. He got to learn a new language.
What do you encourage completely new people right now who have hard skills, for example, like a tech person who would love to take a leadership role, but don't have the skills right now, but he loves that. So he wants to be that person. So he's not going to be pushed in that position.
Yeah.
But how can I start?
How can they start? Well, I'd say the first way is, it's identifying what you want to do.
Yeah.
So you want to be a leader. Okay. What does that mean for you is it in your organization? I would first of all find out, what are the opportunities if it's in an organization. Often some organizations have programs for that, young leadership potential, people who want to grow. The other thing I would do is make sure your boss knows that you're interested, because we assume that our boss knows what we have in our mind, and I promise you they don't. They have a lot in their own mind. So make sure you have a conversation with your manager about your personal development. Say, okay, what's my path? What can I do? How do I get to the next stage? What are the things I need to do? Build relationships in your organization. That's the key of any growth that you will have. So build relationships with people at all levels of your organization, not just the people at the top, because it's not them who are going to help you. It's often the people at the bottom, so get to know everybody in your organization, build strong relationships, get to be known as the go-to person that people can go to, that's ready to be helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very underestimated skill, but having someone who's helpful, available for their colleagues, you get known very quickly. People will think about you when there's opportunities, and they'll recommend you. So being kind, being available, supportive, and being there for others is something very easy to do. But it's also very valuable, because it will put you on people's radar, because they'll be like, oh, that person, she helped me on that project. And that's how I got my career. It was basically, I put my hand up when there were projects coming up, or when there weren't, I would be like, hey, is there anything happening I could help with? And so people started thinking, oh, Maria's always on board to help on new projects. So I got pulled in for projects, and then, you know what? You get visible. Suddenly you get visible in front of management and other people, and they're like, oh, she keeps popping up on all the projects. She's really good. Why don't we call her in on this? And then you get more and more responsibilities and opportunities. And be open to opportunities. Be on the watch out, look out. Don't stay, just in your own box. Get out there and see what's going on around you.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned actually two interesting points. The first one is to connect up and down. So actually, this is the thing that a lot of people miss, because they think they have just only to connect in one direction. But actually, you need all people. You need both direction, and because the people at the top don't know the details.
No.
And the second one was to give before you take. Because to be known for something, to connect, to help others, for a very, very long time, people will come to you, and it's much, much, much easier than going to the management and say, okay, I want to be this.
You have to show them that you can do it.
It's about trust.
Yeah, and it's about building relationship, trust, and for them to oh, okay, well, this person can do this, maybe they could do this too. Also, going and saying, I want this to be given to me, it doesn't usually work. It has to be more around showing what you're capable of, and putting it out there that people are like, oh, actually, I didn't realize that person could do that. Well, maybe we should ask them to come and help us with stuff, So,
Cool. What's next for you?
Wow. A lot of things. I'm still growing my business right now. So it's 3 years in. So I'm still working on what exactly it's going to look like. But it's interesting because it's changed a lot from what I thought it would be at the beginning to what it is now. And I'm enjoying that a lot, so, learning new things. But also, we started the Metropolitan Business Association recently, which you're part of.
Yeah.
And which is taking also a lot of time. And I'm excited to see where that's going to bring us, because I feel like it's just the beginning. We can, it's been so successful, and we brought in so many great people such as you, that I feel that there's opportunities here that we're not tapping into yet. And so that will be definitely very interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah.
But for me, it's really about enjoying life. Also, it's not just all about work, about meeting nice people and having a great life in Barcelona.
Okay, cool. Nice. It was very, very great talking to you.
you.
I have like a few rapid questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. We're being attacked by flies here. Yeah, sorry.
What? Give me like one productivity hack you have.
So one for me is like, use your calendar.
Okay.
My calendar is, if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening.
Okay.
People, and I it's funny because for me, it seems like something very normal and basic, but a lot of people don't do this. And I realize this with my clients, is blocking time out to do everything. Like, I have time blocked out. Okay, so at this time I'm going to the gym. At this time I'm walking the dog, and I have blocked in my calendar. But then I slot in times to do things, because I think when you're working alone, it's much harder to have a structure than when you're working in a company, where sort of the meetings and everything creates the structure for you. And you need to create that structure. And so for me, it's like Mondays is the day where I do all my content creation and marketing. So I have time blocked for that. So that's my productivity. It's really, I block out time and I put things in my calendar. So whatever goes on my to-do list then goes into my calendar, because on a to-do list, it's going to go nowhere. It might just end up going to the bottom. So at least I put in my to-do list, then it has to go into my calendar. So I know it's actually going to happen because there's some time allocated for it.
Okay, what's the first thing you do when you wake up?
I feed the dog and go for a walk with her.
I check my emails.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. Bad. Yeah, I don't look at my emails till after I've walked the dog, gone to the gym, and had breakfast.
This is good.
So because it's just, otherwise your brain is always on that. And I try and put my phone away also, end of day around 7, I try to not look at it anymore. Because otherwise you're just always in the working mode, and it's not good. You need to disconnect at some moment.
Do you have a role model in the leadership world?
A role model? Actually I have a few. I mean, I have to say I'm very inspired by people like Barack Obama, Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek, no.
Yeah, Simon Sinek. I really like what he does. I'm having a blank on her name. The founder of Spanx. I'm having a total blank. Sarah Blakely.
Okay, I will give it out.
From Spanx, yeah. So I find her very inspiring as a founder. She started her own business from scratch, and everybody told her it wouldn't work. So I find her very inspiring. She's also, I love her attitude. I love the way she leads her teams, how she treats them. I mean, recently she got bought out, sold part of her business, and she gave, I think, every single of her employees a buckload of money. I can't remember how much exactly, plus a first-class ticket to go anywhere in the world. Okay. I mean, I just like that she's somebody who puts her team first and treats them correctly and with respect, which you don't see that everywhere. And I think, and your employees are your best asset. If you treat them well, they'll treat your clients well.
Good.
Yeah, brings business.
100%. They will stay longer. If you had the chance today to have like a dinner with anybody in the world, dead or alive, who would that be?
Anyone in the world? Well, it'd probably be my dad, who passed away 20 years ago. So yeah, it would be my dad.
Okay, lovely. Good. Maria, thanks a lot.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
Although
we had a lot of
we had a lot of people around us. We had flies, we had tourists walking from the camera.
But we managed to do that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.